Warning, you are about to hear truth and facts about the increasingly commercialized, screen obsessed culture our children live in and how our parents and caregivers can deal with this. So buckle up, everybody, because today it is such an honor to bring to the Warriors. We have Rachel Franz and Dr. Criscillia Benford, both from Fairplay for Kids. They're joining me today. Let's talk about Fairplay. Fairplay works to enhance children's well-being by eliminating the exploitative and harmful business practices of marketers and big tech. Fairplay is the leading nonprofit committed to helping children thrive online and the only organization dedicated to ending marketing to children. Very important. Marketing, something we don't talk about or hear enough about, but we will with Fairplay. Fairplay stands up for kids. The website is fairplayforkids.org. And today, and I'm so happy and so proud, we will be discussing this terrific new report, Buying to Belong, Youth and Virtual Assets in the Metaverse, researched and co-authored by Rachel Franz, the Early Childhood Advocacy Program Director at Fairplay, and Dr. Criscillia Benford. I'm going to call you a thought leader and working toward a future where digital tech supports human well-being, especially surrounding our children, and also a board member at Fairplay. Oh, they both have terrific credits. So many credits, we don't have time to list everything, but everything will be in the body of this video for all of our warriors to follow along. First, I want to thank both of you for your attention and authoring of this really much needed report, because I really think Metaverse, when I deal with the public, they don't really understand it yet. We're not talking about it enough, but we're going to get into that today. And again, I'm going to have the full report. So every warrior out there can take their time and read the report, study up, because we're going to come back and have a quiz next week for all the warriors about the report. But it really is such an urgent and important topic. So let's start with you, Rachel. I want to start with both of you. Rachel, we're going to start with, give us a little nugget about yourself. Anything you want to tell us before we dig into the report. It is anything. And spill here on the warriors, because we won't tell anybody else.
Sure. So I live in Seattle, and I work remotely for Fairplay. But prior to coming to Fairplay, I was an early educator, a program director of an early childhood program that was all outdoors in Seattle. And I really came to the early childhood work out of my concern for children and the impacts of screens that I was seeing on their development. Back when I was a babysitter and a nanny as a teenager, that was right when the smartphones started coming out. And behaviors changed immediately. And that's really what brought me to this work, was my love of children and really seeing the impacts that the evolving technology landscape was having on them.
Excellent. Criscillia, your turn. What are you going to tell us? What are you going to reveal right here on the Warriors?
Well, I come from an academic background. And when I was a graduate student, I studied narratology, which is the study of the relationship between a story form, the medium in which it appears, and the impact that it has on people. And along the way, I got very interested just in mediated communication overall. And I used to be, when I was an academic, I was a very tech forward professor and taught in the, enhanced classrooms. And like Rachel, I started to see changes in the students as smartphones became more ubiquitous. And that just got me thinking about, and then seeing younger and younger people being using phones, using tablets, using these things. And I discovered Fairplay because I was reading, I think it was a Washington Post article about a little toy, or it's a sort of monitor / toy. There would be a companion for little kids, and it was called Aristotle, and it was by Mattel. And Fairplay launched a campaign to say, this is a terrible thing. This is a little machine that is trying to displace parenting, a lot of the things that parenting does, and also foster relationships between children and machines. And that is during an extremely sensitive period of development. And I just thought, this organization understands the stakes. They understand that we have sensitive periods of development. They understand that we are, as humans, we're meant to socialize with other humans, not connect to machines. They understand how important it is for parents and children to have strong bonds. So I said, I have to be a part of this organization. And I reached out and first, was involved, then joined the board, and now I'm board chair.
Well, they are lucky to have both of you. That's what I have to say. But Fairplay has been so terrific to the Warriors, always the first, at the forefront to provide me with information, to talk to me, everything. And it's just so appreciated. Now, we have to do this. We have to describe, we have to have the definition of metaverse. Rachel, do you want to take that one? People get confused. Now they're saying, do you mean it's Facebook? They really don't know what metaverse means. So break it down for us.
Yeah. There are many different definitions of the metaverse, and I think that it is largely evolving. But, the way that we define the metaverse in our report is we really talk about sort of this persistent 3D world that people are experiencing with a first person avatar. A lot of people think about the metaverse as, something that you experience with virtual reality goggles. That's very much part of the definition. But what we uncovered in our report is that there are already metaverses happening that are very easily accessible to people and are very popular with kids. And those are social gaming platforms like Roblox and Fortnite, where there are a number of different sort of online spaces, different experiences you can have, different worlds that you can go into as this consistent avatar that young people especially spend a lot of time decking out with special outfits and hairstyles and weapons and pets and all sorts of different accessories. And it really becomes a way for them to express themselves and to try on different identities and experience these online worlds.
And as Criscillia pointed out, isolate themselves just in their own little universe, metaverse, whatever we call it. Criscillia, add to that. What do you have to say? Add on to what Rachel is saying.
Well, one of the things that Rachel and I discussed often, particularly during the industry research, as we were reading how industry talks to itself about the metaverse and how they hope to monetize it, we just kept thinking about how right now in this world where we have so much techno-optimism, where childhood is already increasingly screen-based, where there are it's harder and harder for kids to find places to spend time with each other in an offline space, that what industry is doing is filling in that vacuum. And that the kids, the promise of the metaverse that is, apparent in film and books everywhere, like what it could be, is very attractive in its pop culture form. And the downsides are not out there enough. And so, and kids need to socialize. They need to. It's important to their development. It's important to their mental health. It's important to their well-being. So when we create a world where they can't do that offline, they're going to find somewhere else to be. And they're doing this socializing online in places where the feedback that they would give to each other is machine mediated and sculpted for profit. And that is harmful to them. And that's part of what we're documenting in this report.
People will always say to me, why does all of this happen? And the answer usually is, let's break it down. It's kind of crass, but it's the reality. It's really profit over people.
Yes.
Is basically, I try to really bottom line things so the public can really understand, because we want the public to understand what's going on. And I don't think, and you two know this, they really have a handle. I mean, first of all, not judging here. It's everybody's overwhelmed today, right? A lot of things going on, paying bills, kids, all this kind of thing. We can't blame anybody, but they have to wake up. So we have to talk about this report. So let's buying to belong. Rachel, let's start digging in. So now you two came together. Rachel, I read somewhere you had somebody teaching you about, I think it was Fortnite or something.
I
So
had
start telling us how it
assistance.
like all
Yeah.
started.
Yeah, actually, several years ago, Fairplay, and I was sort of the primary researcher on this. We started poking around in virtual reality in some of these spaces for, they're largely spaces for adults, but kids are showing up in them. And we were finding just really horrific stuff in these spaces. And we were really fortunate to then decide that we wanted to commit to understanding this, metaverse and what it means for kids, and especially what marketing and monetization looks like and how it specifically impacts young people. And so we got a grant from the Minderoo Foundation to do this work in the fall of 2023. And I'll pass it to Chrissy to, describe the process and the findings of the report just briefly at first. But it really gave us a chance to immerse ourselves in some of these spaces to understand firsthand from young people what they were experiencing, and to really raise a red flag about what is going on in these spaces where children are already spending time, and the harms will be exacerbated in any sort of like virtual reality metaverse. So I'll toss it to you, Chrissy, to dive in more.
Well, one of the things that I think makes this report particularly strong, and Rachel and I spent a long time talking about the design of the research. It's got 3 phases. So the first thing that we did was like I said, we looked at industry. How does industry talk to itself? When it says, "Yay, let's monetize the children," and it's actually kind
That's
of
it.
the things that they say in the industry reports that are behind firewalls. So we signed up for a whole bunch of industry rags and read, yeah, how do they talk to themselves about how to monetize community, how to kind of insert themselves into developmental processes, and just really confirm something that we've always suspected. Industry knows a lot. They know a lot about our kids. They know a lot about their cognitive biases. They, from developmental, just the science of child development, they know a lot about behavior design, and then they collect data on the particular kids. So that was phase 1. Phase 2, we talked to the kids. We had our focus groups. So young people from around the country, different ages, and wanted to know from their perspective, what's it like in these spaces, experiencing the monetization tactics that industry is inflicting on them. And then the third phase, and this brings us back to your question, Lynn. Rachel, and I did not envy her for this, went into these worlds and spent hours and hours like exploring the world in different ages and kind of identities, documenting. We have screenshots in the report, keeping a researcher diary. And that's why Rachel, to be able to see what it was like, you had to talk to your nephews, didn't you, to kind of learn how to not die instantly in Fortnite?
Yes, I was not very good at Fortnite in the beginning, and it was really helpful to have a young person to show me the ropes and also show me, just how important to, my 11-year-old nephew, just how important all of these virtual assets are to the experience and how central it is in this experience of both fun and stress and hardship that young people are experiencing in these spaces. So, yeah.
Now, Rachel, so both of you, I'm going to say, in essence, were kind of investigative reporters as well. You were digging up the information. Now, Rachel, did you ever go undercover? Kind of. Did you ever try to pretend to be a child, or you can't admit any of that? Or
no, I can. Yeah, we document this in detail in the appendix of our report. If anyone wants to go that deep, I don't blame folks if they don't.
Now,
but,
Rachel, that's a no no on the Warriors. They're going to study it. They're going to memorize it. They're going to get a quiz next week. Are you
wonderful? Okay, well, this will be part of the quiz. We set up a series of different accounts in different games that mimicked the ages and identities of the focus group participants that we talked to. So I set up accounts as 11-year-old, Black, identifying boy, a 14-year-old, non-binary child, etc. A girl who was 12. And, right now there's only one law that protects children online in the United States. It's called the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And it requires companies to treat children who sign up as children under 13 slightly differently in terms of data collection than it does children 13 and up. And so when you turn 13 in these games, you are treated like an adult. There's no differentiation between what you can experience as a 13-year-old as what you can experience as a 35-year-old. And of course, that raises red flags as well for many reasons. But yeah, so we could see sort of the differences in experiences and what was available to us in terms of the marketing, but also exposure to strangers, the pressures, the overall social experiences. And it's of course there's bias. I am not a 14-year-old. That's a limitation of our report, is we're not actually young people in these spaces, but the impacts of being bullied for having some sort of, non-expensive or free virtual asset on an outfit that your avatar is wearing, even as an adult, feels real. And so it feels really real for children, even more so.
Yeah, and I'm glad, Rachel, you brought up about COPPA 2.0, as we call it, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, because it's just been reintroduced. Because that's from, 1998 or something. We got to update everything. Mm-hmm. We've got to, what's going on here? This is what I say constantly. I want both of you to know, what is going on here? With these monetization trends, Criscillia, what would be maybe the top one that is really you're thinking about a lot now, you want parents and caregivers to know about?
The one, and it's sort of the umbrella trend under which the rest of them kind of get supercharged. The umbrella trend is to design the platform so that when you're on the platform, you feel the promise of community. And I want to really emphasize that word. It's a promise of community. You don't necessarily find the community, but it seems as if you could. And then the virtual goods are offered to you in ways that they seem to unlock the doors to community. And so in the focus groups, one of the things that was just heartbreaking really was when the younger, we had a young group of focus, young people in our focus groups, age 9, talking about when they first got onto Roblox and their parents didn't let them buy anything. So they're there, and the only way they can represent themselves are with the virtual goods that are free. And when you're in that situation, the other players will call you a bacon, which refers to the free hair that you can have, or a noob. They got other kinds of names. And for the younger kids, they were more open about talking about that being painful. And they were more open about how they feel so much empathy when they witness that kind of economic bullying, bullying based on your perceived wealth. When and that developmentally, this makes sense, that they have this strong sense of fairness, that they're really it's easier for them to express as adolescents get older. And I should pause and say adolescence starts at age 10 and goes to age 25. And so when you're like around 15, 16, you become more averse to being seen as a victim or identifying as a victim. And so that will make older adolescents, they will talk about that experience, but they'll say, yeah, when I was a little kid, it used to really hurt me, but now it's okay. But then when we ask them about, like, are they motivated to buy these skins? How do they use these virtual objects? They use them as social navigation tools. So you can see the lesson learned in early adolescence is carried through in older adolescents, that you need to buy to belong. That's, part of why the report is called that. But it was just hearing these stories about being bullied, and hearing the young people, when we asked each of our focus group participants, what would you do to make your favorite social gaming platform better? They all said, get rid of the bullies. Get rid of the bullies. And unfortunately, because these platforms are designed to monetize community, there is little incentive from the perspective of the platform to get rid of the bullies, because the bullies are driving purchasing behavior.
Yes.
And I'll add to that, there's research showing that players who feel deeply connected to a gaming community are susceptible to marketing strategies, right? And there are, we say multiple times in the report, like this creation of a community is not an accident. It is a intentional, like, predatory economy that is cultivated by these companies under the guise of being able to socialize and having a place to go and be with your friends and express yourself. And that's really creepy. And it's really unfair, especially for adolescents who are vulnerable to a lot of this messaging much more than, adults.
Yeah, it's, we do a lot of focus groups at the Warriors. We go into a lot of schools, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, just to teach digital safety, very kind of broad almost. Most parents, we started doing parents like assemblies, because I realized we have to help the parents and caregivers understand like what the kids are going through. And you use that word community. I take offense at all this predation, because our hashtag at the Warriors is community creates change, because we want to do good in the community. And I can just see what you're saying. They're moving in, getting kids to, you'll belong, you'll feel wanted, you'll be part of a gang group, you know what I mean, be part of us. I take high offense to that. So I think, tell me what both of you think of this. The way I can get to kids, because I was telling Rachel the other day, like, what we know, the public doesn't know, right? So we want to get all this out into the public. Once I get kids to understand people are making money off of you, like, then they're like, what? They are? Like, when they understand that they're being used, they really sit up and take notice and want to be part of the discussion, and also talk to, their family unit. We have families in New York, aunts and uncles raising kids, a lot of grandparents raising kids. That goes on all over the country. So I come in from that kind of place. Do both you agree that's okay to do?
It reminds me, though, of something that surprised me in the focus group discussions. The older adolescents, they have some cognitive holes in like how advertising works, but they do understand that the whole thing exists for profit. And they have this sort of resigned attitude toward being monetized, which is also really sad.
Fair.
They're like, well, that's just how it is. And then when we ask, well, but do you like it? No, no, we don't like it, but it's how it is. And so there's a sense of fatalism among some of the older adolescents that this can't be changed. And that's why I think it's really important for advocates to make the conversation about what we can do to change, to try to get it out there, make it more public so that it's less, we're less talking to each other in the choir. And there are like more increasingly, there are more and more young people who are out there, talking about social media, and social media can change. And I'm hoping to see that same kind of, enthusiasm for change happening around social gaming. But yeah, I was surprised that they understood. They said, well, when this would come up around the issue of collaborations in Fortnite. So Fortnite is famous for collaborations with rock stars and other artists or a brand or something like that. And I remember one young person saying, yeah, I buy my Jordans and I wear my Jordans, and then somebody looks at them and they think, ooh, I like Jordans too. And maybe they buy Jordans in the game, or they buy Jordans outside of the game, and now the game and, Nike and everybody's making money. And it's like, and that's just how it is. And it is, well, that is how marketing works. That's a classic example of a blurred advertisement. But like I said, there's also something going on about the exploitation of status sensitivity that happens between the ages of 10 and 25. And so, and it's done so recklessly. It's done so recklessly, and the informational asymmetries and power asymmetries online make it that kind of peer pressure that can happen online. It's worse than anything that could happen offline. Offline, there aren't those informational asymmetries. Like the mall can't get you the way that the shopping environments and these social gaming places are shopping environments, and they can influence your behavior in ways that an offline shopping environment just can't.
And I mean, you can leave the mall and close your door when you get home, but with all of the online, it's 24 hours. It just never ends, correct? I mean, so this bullying, I hear the bullying a lot out of children. Rachel, right now, I feel like 2025, I feel like we're going to explode in the tech world. I feel like something's sitting there that we're going to wake up one day with all of this talk and AI and AGI and all of these issues. Um, where is this going to go right now? Where are we sitting in 2025? Because I don't care if it's the school systems, parents, none of it has been good enough. And we can't keep up with all of this. It's always like predators, whether I say predators, whether it's the trafficking we work on, it's the marketers, the companies, it's a form of predation on our kids, our young people, and our parents and caregivers also, right? Like, where is it going right now?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of hope for where this advocacy can go, and I'd like to stay there in the hope. We really hope that this particular report can not only contribute to the research on the interactions between young people's well-being and marketing and virtual assets and the metaverse, but we also hope that it sparks a discussion. And, we absolutely think that young people should be angry about the way that they're being treated. We think that parents should feel angry, but ultimately the burden of proof and the burden of setting parental controls and managing their kids' screen time, they're facing an uphill battle because these social gaming platforms are designed to work against screen time limits. There are mechanisms inside of them that keep children coming back to them. So one example is a child logs into Roblox, and there's one experience called Adopt Me that I'll use as an example, where your avatar gets to adopt a series of very cute pets and take care of them. You can certainly buy pets, and there's a lot of trading that goes on. But, you know, one of the things that this game entices you with is if you log in for one day, you get a special reward, a virtual asset. If you log in for 2 days in a row, you get an even better virtual asset. If you log in for 5 days in a row, you get something that's rare. And then also what's embedded in that game is every 40 minutes, you also get a special reward. You get encouragement to spend your virtual currency. And when families are trying to work against that and help their young person set healthy limits, it's almost impossible. Like Chrissy said earlier, the industry knows a lot about kids. They know about how their brain works. They know about how brand loyalty works. And so we need this maybe anger, disappointment, confusion, this sense of unfairness to point toward these companies. These decisions are deliberate. And so we need more regulatory intervention. We need regulators to step in and investigate these social gaming platforms. We need laws to be passed that really impose a duty of care on tech companies in order to make sure that they're putting children's developmental needs first. First is would be wonderful, even if they put it second or third, man, like it's not in there at all. So, we want to see journalists covering and keep covering this issue. And we really hope that folks will also connect with us at Fairplay to chat about this more and more and join us in future activism around this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now there is a tremendous amount of hope. More people are talking about it. Fairplay, as you pointed out, doing terrific work, right? And we should also point out, it's like bipartisan work. Like everybody can get on board for all this work. This is about kids. This is about, families. This is about mental health. It's about everything going on. So many more people in the government. There is legislation. Hopefully they'll be reintroducing a Kids Online Safety Act, right? So we've got that going on. The burden has to be taken off of kids and parents, and big tech held responsible. That's the bottom line. And people have to start getting a little bit angry. They have to start, sticking up for their children and all of these things. And also, I like the idea of children, coming to the table and speaking about their experiences. I know it's children, but sharing with other kids, right? Because kids resonate with other kids, right? So in my dream warriors world, I'm like, the kids are teaching the kids. They learn from us, but teaching, because that will snowball if we get a bunch of kids. And they are, at least in New York, we have groups that are starting, putting the phones down for a while, putting the gaming away for a day. There's tremendous amount of hope. Now, Criscillia, final words. If you're talking, it could be parents, it could be educators, it could be policymakers. What do you want them to know about this tremendous work you and Rachel have done? Give the speech. Pretend you're on, Capitol Hill. I'll be there cheering you on, because it is so urgent and important that we really keep talking about this. That's another program, right?
One thing that I have been thinking about in terms of what's an impact that feels within reach and is on the way toward the ultimate goal of living in a world where kids can socialize with each other offline, do this crucial developmental work, which is identity formation, self-exploration, building friendships, that they can do that offline and feel great doing that. So that's the big goal. But along the way, I think one of the things that we can fight for and feels within our reach, because there are so many people talking about it, from kids to adults, is the benefits of taking phones out of schools. That
Yes.
when we take the phones out of schools, the school can also we're not just enhancing the school as a learning environment, which of course is great, but we're also enhancing it as a social environment, and the kids have more opportunity to talk to each other at lunch, in between classes, and they're not in these digital worlds where, like I said, everything is manipulated and stacked against them. The information and power asymmetries online are tremendous. And so if we can give more kids more time to interact with each other offline, um, everybody will benefit. Everybody will benefit. The kids will benefit, families will benefit, and our whole society will benefit from kids being able to do the developmental work they need without the interference of marketers.
I'm so glad you said that, because our governor here in New York announced that sometime later in 2025, no phones in the classrooms. Of course, I always ask, I do a lot of work in our state capital, Albany, how are we going to pay for that? But that's because, yonder pouches or, cubby holes outfitting every school, but it can be done because we have teachers reporting, they can teach better, the kids are paying attention, they're talking to each other. And interestingly enough, I actually do want to ask both of you this. Teachers have reported to us, schools, the kids after a while are good with it, but it's the parents that are putting these demands of, we want to be constantly in touch, we're worried, we're this or that. Any thoughts on that?
I think that aligns with the research that we understand is going on. I think that children are of all ages are incredibly intelligent and incredibly in tune with what's going on around them, and when we give them space to have what they need, they know. We work really closely with the Phone Free Schools movement at Fairplay, and they have some incredible tools for talking to families about this and sort of easing their worries. And there are a number of studies coming out that we hope will ease families' anxiety. But I think it also goes to show that families are also at the mercy of marketing messages about the importance of technology. And there's so many of us that have really bought in, and the more skeptical we can be about the buy-in to technology, where it's not meeting young people's needs, it's not meeting families' needs, the better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hope. I'm glad you pointed that out, because the Warriors were part of the Phone Free Schools movement. We promote that. I'm going to put that in as well, the body of this video. Well, both of you are terrific. Buying to belong, so needed. We will be sharing this far and wide. I want to thank you, Rachel Franz, Criscillia. Thank you so much for joining me today. Parents, everybody's overwhelmed. And this report is so explicit, so good, broken down. You're going to both have to come back next week and quiz all of the warriors, the millions of warriors that are put online to take the quiz. Again, fairplayforkids.org. You'll find the report on there. Again, everything will be in the body of the video. The tagline for Fairplay, one of them is, let's create a world where kids can be kids. So I think that is very important. Anything left you would both like to say? I'd love to have both of you back, because I think this warrants going along kind of discussion so we can help everybody. Anything?
I'd like to point people to the end of the report, where we have recommendations for families, recommendations for schools, recommendations for policymakers, so that there's the report that helps any reader understand what's happening in these spaces. But then we have recommendations for what can we do now, like right away, and then how can we work together? So what can we do now to mitigate these harms, and how can we
Yes.
work together to change these platforms and make it so that kids can actually do what they want to do in
Yeah.
the platforms and not be undermined the way that they are right now.
And Criscillia, what you just said is giving the hope. It's giving the resources. It's giving the information. It's giving the opening up to discussion, the coming together. That is the true meaning of community. So Rachel Franz, Criscillia Benford, thank you for joining the Warriors today. Please promise me we will speak again soon.
Of
Thanks
course.
so much,
Thank
Lynn.
you so much.
You're welcome. Talk soon.